Imagine walking into a room and instantly you feel it. The silent judgment, the dismissive glances. All because of something as simple as how you arrived. It's a universal sting, that feeling of being an outsider, of being underestimated. Have you ever felt truly invisible? Today, we're diving into a story that proves first impressions can be shockingly wrong, and why true value often hides in plain sight. The clatter of an old bicycle chain, the worn-out sneakers, a quiet entrance. Hardly the stuff of headlines, right? For Alara Vance, that was just Tuesday. The morning sun, already warm on her face, glinted off the scuffed handlebars of her trusty, if a little rusty, single-speed bicycle. It wasn't her first choice of transport. Not today, not for the exclusive scholarship mixer at the prestigious Harrington University. Her old sedan had finally given up the ghost that morning, spitting out a final puff of black smoke and then silence. Public transport would have made her irrevocably late, and after months of relentless study, Alara wasn't about to let a broken-down car derail her chance at the coveted Innovators of Tomorrow scholarship. She wheeled her bike onto the sprawling, manicured lawns of Harrington, a place of ivy-clad stone buildings and hushed, academic air. Students in crisp blazers and polished shoes milled about, their laughter a low hum in the morning breeze. Alara, in her best, albeit slightly faded, navy dress and a pair of sensible flats, felt a familiar knot of nerves tighten in her stomach. Her bicycle helmet, still warm from her ride, was clutched in her hand. Finding a bike rack was unexpectedly difficult. Most students arrived in sleek, expensive cars, pulling up to the grand entrance where valets discreetly ushered them away. As she finally spotted a lonely rack tucked away behind a hedge, a ripple of hushed whispers drifted her way. A small cluster of students, all impeccably dressed in designer labels, eyed her with open amusement. One girl, with a perfectly coiffed blonde ponytail and an air of effortless superiority, nudged her friend. "Look at that," she murmured, loud enough for Alara to catch. Someone clearly missed the memo on arrival protocol. Did she seriously ride a bike? Her friends giggled, their eyes sweeping over Alara's slightly wind-blown hair and simple attire. Alara felt a blush creep up her neck, but she merely offered a small, polite smile before securing her bike. Little did they know, this poor girl on a bicycle carried something far more valuable than any designer outfit or luxury car could ever represent. Think about the last time you misjudged someone. What did you miss? But the story of Alara isn't just about judgment. It's about the very human tendency to assume and what happens when those assumptions are shattered. Silence can be deafening, but a pointed laugh, that's a different kind of loud. Inside the grand ballroom, chandeliers sparkled, reflecting off-polished marble floors. A gentle buzz of conversation filled the air as faculty members mingled with nervous scholarship hopefuls. Alara, clutching a small glass of sparkling water, tried to blend in. She observed the conversations, listening intently to discussions about quantum physics and economic theories, topics she loved but felt intimidated to jump into. Then, the perfectly coiffed blonde from outside, Brooke Sterling, materialized beside her. Brooke, radiating an aura of inherited wealth and effortless confidence, surveyed Alara with a slow, deliberate gaze. "Oh, it's you," she purred, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "I was wondering if your vintage mode of transport made it inside." Her eyes flicked down to Alara's sensible flats, then back up to her face. "That's quite the look. Very earthy. Did you pick it up from a thrift store?" "It certainly looks lived in." Brooke's friends, who had positioned themselves strategically around them, snickered. Alara's heart gave a little lurch. She felt the blood drain from her face, then rush back in a fiery flush. She wanted the floor to swallow her whole. "It's comfortable," Alara managed, her voice barely a whisper, though she wished it was a roar. Brooke chuckled, a high, tinkling sound that grated on Alara's nerves. "Comfortable is for, well, comfort. This is Harrington, darling. First impressions are everything. You know, like showing up in something that screams, 'I try to get here on a whim.'" She then took a deliberate step back, her hand moving in an exaggerated sweep, and then, whether by accident or design, her elbow bumped into a passing waiter. A tray of drinks tilted precariously. Brooke gasped dramatically, but not before a splash of bright orange juice arced through the air, landing squarely on the front of Alara's navy dress. "Oh my!" Brooke exclaimed, her hand flying to her mouth, though her eyes held a spark of malicious glee. "How clumsy of me! I suppose you'll have to, what do they say? Shake it off? Or maybe you could just blend in with the carpet." Laughter erupted from Brooke's friends, loud and dismissive. The few people who had been nearby turned to look, some with pity, others with a knowing smirk. Alara felt hot tears prick her eyes. The humiliation was a physical ache. She simply nodded, mumbled a polite, "It's fine," and began dabbing at the sticky stain with a napkin. She kept her chin up, a quiet resolve hardening in her gaze. She would not let them see her break. How would you react in that moment? Their laughter echoed, but it was nothing compared to the shock that would soon reverberate through the entire room. Sometimes the quietest person holds the biggest secret. The mixers concluded, and the room buzzed with anticipation for the main event, the announcement of the Innovators of Tomorrow scholarship recipient. Alara, now standing discreetly at the back of the room, the orange juice stain of visible blot on her dress, felt a familiar calm settle over her. She knew she had given her best in the interviews, her passion for sustainable urban development and community outreach burning bright despite the earlier incident. A distinguished figure, Dean Arthur Vance, stepped onto the raised podium. His silver hair gleamed under the chandeliers, and his presence commanded immediate silence. The room held its breath. "Good morning, everyone," Dean Vance began, his voice deep and resonant. "It has been an honor to meet so many bright, promising young minds today. The decision for the Innovators of Tomorrow scholarship was exceptionally challenging this year, given the caliber of talent we have seen." He paused, a slight smile playing on his lips. However, one candidate stood out. This individual demonstrated not only exceptional academic prowess in their field, groundbreaking research in sustainable urban planning, mind you, but also a profound commitment to community service and an innovative project proposal that promises to truly transform local city initiatives. As he spoke, Alara found herself holding her breath, a tiny spark of hope igniting within her. Dean Vance then cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping across the room before landing directly on Alara at the back. "It is with immense pride that I announce the recipient of this year's Innovators of Tomorrow scholarship, along with the seed funding for their visionary project, Alara Vance." A ripple of murmurs, then a collective gasp, swept through the room. Brooke Sterling, who had been leaning casually against a pillar, nearly choked on her water. Her eyes, wide with disbelief, locked onto Alara. Alara, her heart pounding, started to walk forward, the orange juice stain now a curious badge against the polished backdrop. As Alara approached the podium, Dean Vance extended his hand, a warm, proud smile on his face. He then turned back to the stunned audience, his voice carrying clearly. "And for those of you who may not be aware," he added, a hint of steel in his tone, "Alara is not only an incredibly gifted scholar, but also a truly remarkable individual. She is my daughter, and it was her personal initiative and tireless work through the Vance Family Foundation that secured the primary, anonymous funding for this entire scholarship program 3 years ago. She insisted on participating as any other applicant, without any special consideration, to ensure absolute fairness." The silence that followed was absolute. You could almost hear a pin drop. The perfectly coiffed Brooke stood frozen, her face drained of all color, the self-satisfied smirk completely gone. The friends who had giggled with her now stared at their shoes, mortified. The irony was palpable. The poor girl on the bicycle, the one they had openly mocked, was not only the scholarship recipient, but also the silent benefactress, the quiet force behind the very opportunity they were all vying for. It was a moment of profound revelation, a stark lesson in humility delivered not by words, but by a quiet young woman in a slightly stained dress. Who do you think is truly rich? The gasp that filled the room was deafening, but it was the silence that followed that truly spoke volumes about what they had just learned, and what we can all learn from Alara's story. What if every interaction was an opportunity, not a judgment? Alara's story isn't just about a dramatic reveal. It's a mirror held up to our own tendencies. We live in a world obsessed with appearances, where the shine of a new car or the flash of a designer label often trumps the quiet dignity of character. We've all been guilty of making snap judgments, of forming opinions based on the superficial. Alara, arriving on her humble bicycle, challenged those assumptions without saying a word. Her quiet resilience in the face of mockery spoke volumes. She didn't need to announce her identity or her family's wealth. Her true value lay in her intellect, her dedication, and her genuine desire to make a difference. Her experience offers us a powerful, yet gentle, reminder. True worth isn't about what you wear or how you arrive, but who you are and what you contribute to the world. Humility, in its quiet power, often hides immense strength and profound impact. Alara chose anonymity not to hide, but to ensure fairness, to experience the process authentically, and to let her merits speak for themselves. This act of genuine humility ultimately amplified the impact of her revelation, leaving everyone speechless and, hopefully, a little more thoughtful about their own perceptions. So how do we apply this? It's simple, really. Instead of making assumptions about someone based on their clothes, their car, or their social media profile, try to understand their journey. Practice active listening. Genuinely hear what people say, and more importantly, what they don't. Challenge your own biases, those little whispers in your mind that tell you what someone should be like based on how they look. Seek the story behind the facade, because everyone has one, and it's almost always far more interesting than the surface suggests. Connect with people on a deeper level, beyond the shallow judgments that often prevent us from truly seeing the incredible individuals around us. Alara's experience is just one powerful reminder of a universal truth. If you want to explore more stories that challenge perceptions and reveal hidden strengths, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check out our next video, where we dive into the psychology of first impressions and how understanding our biases can lead to richer, more meaningful connections in every aspect of our lives.